Welcome to the Friday edition of Talking Horses. Greg Wolf, Sarah El Badwi. Get set for the weekend coming up here at Aqueduct. My final week before I head out of town for my last three shows, I guess, of 2023. I can't believe it's coming to a close. And exciting opening day at Oaklawn every single day of the meet out in Hot Springs. We're going to have a cross-country Pick 5.
Are you ready? Are you going to
Very
get involved?
Excited. I will be getting involved.
I think you should be. Those payouts at Oaklawn for any of the multis are usually insane. So definitely looking forward to having some of our races mixed in. It's a great wager, and I'm glad that we're going to be able to offer it pretty much every day.
Yep. Take a look at it right there. So today, that's what it comprises. It begins at 3:12 Eastern. I think tomorrow. It actually starts before we come on the air, so keep that in mind for that cross-country Pick 5. It actually begins before we come on the air on our show. So you want to look ahead at that. Go to NYRA.com/cross-country to get involved. Let's do the other business before we get into today's card. Get signed up, started, play all the action, including that cross-country Pick 5 with NYRA Bets with this offer, that $200 deposit match sign-up bonus. Code to use for new members to take advantage. Match 200, or just use that QR code and scan away. Middle Pick 4 today begins in race 3. And a $15 bonus for betting opening day at Oaklawn and here at Aqueduct. Bet $75 each on those two tracks, Aqueduct, Oaklawn, and you get $15 bonus money in your account whether you win or lose. You got to opt in to take advantage of that promotion. So let's get into it. We kick off this card, maiden special weight, mile and an eighth, and a couple of Chad Brown runners are going to take a ton of attention in this race. Reasoned Analysis and Malarchuk.
Absolutely. I mean, you have 2 for Todd Pletcher, 2 for Chad Brown. This is one of those typical winter loaded maiden special weights for the late 2-year-olds as they stretch out in distance and everybody starts to see what they have for the upcoming Kentucky Derby Trail.
Let's look. We're going to show Reasoned Analysis in that debut. It was sprinting 6 furlongs. Wound up 4th. Little bit of a bump. It wasn't terrible, but did have a little bit of issues out of there. Second to last early, and then did start running on a little bit and faced obviously a pretty good horse in C Streak, who was second in a stake in the debut, and then just looked sensational. I'm excited to see C Streak next time out. It's a big performance.
He runs at Gulfstream, I think, tomorrow.
Does he?
Actually. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what we get from him as well. I mean, the pace was starting to come apart in the late stages of this race, but given how far back he was early, even being with the race flow, I think we're going to see this race be very productive moving forwards. We already saw a horse in Change of Command return to run second to Sierra Leone. We saw how good he was into the Remsen against that bias. So
Dam was a sprinter. Second Dam was a sprinter, but Chad Brown seems to overcome that all the time. I don't even know if it's an issue.
Right, he has such good numbers stretching these types of horses out, and this one an upstart, and we saw Zandon certainly be one of those horses that could go on and handle the longer distances. So I don't have any big problems with him. I have him in the mix as you do as well, but we both went to the other Chad Brown.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to like with Malarchuk. Debuted at a mile. It's a race that came off the grass in that debut. Obviously, Moonlight would be second in the graded stakes Street Sense next time out. 4th in the Remsen. Legitimate kind of just broke a little slow in that debut and then took a funky step just a few strides out of the gate. I was 3 wide most of the way around the racetrack in that race. And I like the fact how this horse continued to battle, because it's a pretty good horse who was in 3rd there, Stolen Magic, who came back to win for Linda Rice next time out, cutting back in distance sprinting with an 83 Beyer, but kept working to get by that horse at the wire. I thought showed some real ability.
And already has the distance experience. And I mean, you might look at that and think, oh, this was an off the turf race. Who was he really facing in there? But we kind of are getting a feel for who Moonlight is. And while he hasn't been able to replicate that 90 Beyer speed figure that he earned in that race, you mentioned the Graded Stakes Company that he's been keeping. He's just been running against some solid horses. So even though he hasn't run the same figure, I think that he's gotten some real tests for class, and that Malarchuk was the one that I wanted of the 2 Chad Browns. I went a little off the reservation with Society Man being included, but Danny Gargan actually has some phenomenal numbers, stretching horses out, sprints to routes on dirt over the past 5 years. 11 for 35, 31%, $2.07 ROI. Valentine Candy was the winner of this horse's debut. Just really never seemed to be getting involved in that race, and I thought could benefit from getting a little bit more ground to work with and having that time off since that race as well to possibly grow and mature too. So I wanted to include this horse at what's going to be a pretty big price.
No eliminate at all for you, huh?
Wasn't he supposed to kind of run a little bit better last time with his stablemate when they took so much money in there behind?
Pretty good horse who beat him.
True. I mean, I have a lot of respect for domestic product, but he didn't really show up in that Remsen as much. I know that we were dealing with a really speed favoring type of racetrack, and I think Dornoch and Sierra Leone are both fairly legitimate, but he just he should have been a little bit more forward and involved in there, so he can beat me.
All right, pick 4. $75,000 maiden claiming race, 1 turn mile. We got biggest scratch on the entire card today.
I agree.
Co-creator is later today in that feature, who's a morning line favorite. But this is a big one as well. But I was going to try to beat this horse.
Me too.
Unfortunately, this one coming out did not run much at all in that dirt debut for Chad Brown. He comes out, but the other Chad Brown stays, Union Bulldog. And now Union Bulldog's going to be extremely short in this race. We'll take a look at the debut on that sloppy sealed racetrack for the debut on October 21st. This horse was 4 wide around the turn. Rathmore actually came back and was 3rd in a stake at Tampa, the winner of this race. I thought there was a lot to like from this effort. Is now he's going to get more ground in start number 2.
Exactly. Just a horse that he was never really in a great position within this race. And maybe you look at this, oh, they're dropping him in for a tag as a little bit of a negative, but he was originally only a $65,000 purchase. So if he goes for $75,000, I don't think it's that big of a loss considering the purse as well.
And he wasn't beat that much for all of it here.
No, he wasn't.
2.5 lengths.
We also saw For Your Pleasure come out of there and run a decent number behind first-time starter Otello. And this has a dirt route pedigree. He's a full to the multiple dirt route winner, Mailman Money.
Love that horse.
He's a decent type. And I mean, Chad Brown stretching out those 2-year-old maidens, you know, he's got a good numbers doing so.
Yeah, I was a huge fan of Mailman Money. Won just shy of $400,000 in his career. Second dam actually won on turf and dirt, but was graded stakes placed on dirt. There's a lot to like with this pedigree as this horse goes a little bit longer. And I was going to make that point with a 1, but, you know.
I agree.
The point I'm about to make, everyone's dropping a class in here.
Precisely.
Say, oh, Union Bulldog's dropping. Everyone else kind of is too.
Right.
But it is going to be probably a little bit easier field than the likes of Rathmore for Union Bulldog.
I agree. There wasn't a ton of form to go on for really anybody outside of Union Bulldog, and even his first race. I think that you just have to look at that and think that he could improve second time out. And that's kind of how I felt about Allegrini, who's getting more distance as well. A horse that, when he was breaking from the outside on debut, usually we talk about those horses on the outside veering out to the open space. He actually veered in and got himself into some traffic trouble in there and hit the gate to his inside and just really never really showed up in there. So I'm hoping that he can run better today and getting a little bit more ground to work with this son of Vino Rosso.
And you got a first timer on the outside too, Dune Road. They probably, I would think, want to get this horse on turf at some point. We don't have turf racing right now in New York, so they're going to give this horse a start. But that may be a horse to keep your eyes on when we do get back to grass racing. Some big pedigree there. Produced the Dam Kentucky Ghost stakes winner on the grass, who was a 6-time winner on the turf. The Dam was a graded stakes winner on the grass. Second Dam was grade 1 placed on the grass. So Dune Road, we'll see how that one does on dirt for this second race. Third race, middle pick 4 starts here. New York bred, $25,000 claiming sprint. And Sue Ellen Mishkin loves to win, has a nose for the wire, and she is quick.
Yeah, she's game, and even when she was running against tougher horses, on paper at least, 2 back for the $25,000 tag, she was able to get a good third that day. It says checked and impeded. I don't really know how much trouble she was actually in, but certainly inconvenienced in some way. The rail draw, I mean, that tells you everything you need to know about what they're going to try to do with this horse, right? She's going to be forwardly placed, and she already has a ton of natural speed anyway. My only concern with her and Diva Banker, and they both could win, is that they haven't really done quite as much at this price tag level. And you're facing some legitimate drop downs in terms of who is coming in here, who has had more success for this kind of tag. They're kind of stepping up in class.
Yeah, I mean, state bred 25, that was open 16. I guess a little bit. Talk about what you like with Fontana Freda. I initially was going to say I'm going to dismiss this horse because the dirt races were not that good. The race where this horse actually broke her maiden on dirt that came off was a loaded field. Beat Tough Street in that race.
Tough Street's a real dirt
for Chad
horse.
Brown,
Exactly.
who's become a 5-time winner. Carbon won next time out. True Empress actually became an 8-time winner out of that race. So I said, oh my gosh, you got to use this horse.
If that race didn't exist, you could completely toss this horse as just being a turf horse that
Yeah.
they're kind of trying to find a new home for now that turf season has ended. But I think that you do have to take her a little bit more seriously because you know that she's at least been able to do it and win against true dirt horses in the past. And that race last time was a race where the pace was starting to come apart against some pretty tough horses. And Sweetest Princess was cutting back in distance, rallied from last in there. She was kind of hustled to get some forward position and just never really seemed like she could be competitive at that level. So I think now with this drop in class today and possibly getting a little bit more of a comfortable time stalking Sue Ellen Michigan, that she's just been facing way tougher company.
Yeah, I mean, I guess part of the key to this race, and wow, you don't even have Sue Ellen Michigan at all. Is this for Liberty Flame? How much is she going to press her? She pressed her, slack tied, I should say, pressed Sue Ellen Michigan. They were head and head, and then that horse dropped back and made another run. I just love the heart that she showed in that win last time out. But how aggressive, especially coming in fresh, Liberty Flame, how much heat is she going to put on that rail runner? That could be key to the race.
A fair question as well. And I mean, she is switching barns. She's taking that little bit of a drop in class, coming in fresh, just as you mentioned, and one that also likes to be forward. So Sue Ellen Michigan, I just don't trust her to get the kind of trip that I know that she wants against horses that I think might be a little bit better than who she's been facing lately.
Move on.
Let's do it.
Race 4 starts the pick 6 on the Friday card. Maiden special weight, 1-turn mile coming up in this spot, and Lucency Authorized. They're coming out of the same race back on November 1st. Dutrow Barn now taking over with Lucency, who had been with Todd Pletcher.
And kind of a curious move that they're putting the blinkers on, and I'm sure there's a reason other than getting more speed out of this horse because he already showed some good inside speed in that last effort for the Pletcher Barn and likely to do the same today with the rail draw in here. And he was game in this effort. I mean, this was a race that was won by, what's his name for Chad Brown? Escalation Clause, who was sitting that nice stalking trip towards the outside. And Lucency fought him pretty well all the way to the wire in here after being forward early in this race. So maybe it's just for a little bit more focus, but he can already be forward and be a horse that likes to show that good early speed.
Yeah, maybe it's just to get the horse to focus and finish a little more. Dutrow's been amazing. Last couple of months, he's winning at, I believe, what I looked up, I saw different stats, but I looked it up, it was 26%. But the most remarkable thing to me, the average payoff, $14.80
based on the recent success
for his winners. Incredible.
Yeah, it's crazy. You have a trainer that's been able to really win at all levels lately. Had that really impressive maiden winner at a big price the other day, El Capi. I don't know how the figure came back, but it seemed like it was going to be quick. So,
what do you think about Authorized in here? It was almost 2 years away, and when we saw this horse, actually he'd faced some really good horses his first couple of starts. He used to be forward. They're going to try and be forward again today because they were not when he came back off the bench.
he didn't break all that well. He was off a little bit slow. I mean, he hadn't run in quite some time. We hadn't seen him since December of 2021. He had actually gone off favored in both of his starts as a 2-year-old, one of those favored over Unbridled Bomber, who was able to get the best of him. But he seemed kind of reactive to the kickback in there, sort of throwing his head a little bit. And I just thought that sitting in behind horses and able to make the sort of run to almost get the second place photo over Lucency after being sort of uncomfortable early on and coming off that long break as well, I thought that he was one that was more likely to take another step forward and sort of always well meant.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he faced Courvoisier too in his second start. That's when he went to the bench, but he set the pacer when the Jerome next time out. He's faced some good horses first couple of starts of his career. What'd you like with Egypt? Talk to me here.
I mean, he almost pulled off a huge upset last time, 31-1 on the 20th of October. That Beyer speed figure is kind of held up with horses that have come out of that race. I mean, he ran into solid fields before that when he was starting his career in February. And those two races were only a week apart as well. So then now having that time off and even some time off since his last race. I mean, if you look at Treble Clef, who ran third in that effort last time, he returned to improve with an 83 Beyer last time out at Churchill. Cloud Forest returned in a tough $50,000 starter allowance, and Cloud Forest wasn't exactly a winning type of horse, but certainly sort of backed up that number in his next start. And I thought that he just showed a lot of improvement last time and could be forward in here as well. I expect Lucency to be on the front end, but I think that Egypt will be sitting right off.
All right, that's the race that kicks off the pick 6. We'll do race 5, then we'll take a break here. Late pick 5 starts in the 5th. Condition $14,000 claiming race, 6 furlong sprints. thought this was one of the most difficult races on the card, if
I
not
agree.
the most difficult race on the card. Probably with the scratches in the last, it has become the most difficult.
Yes.
I'll let you start with what you liked here with Brunate.
Look, there's not a ton to sink your teeth into as far as form for the majority of these horses, and he is one that's coming off a little bit of a break. And you have to kind of jump in the time machine to see a time when he had some better numbers. And this is his last win, which was all the way back April 1st of 2022. But I feel as though the horses that he was facing before going to the bench might be tougher fields than what he's coming into today, because even horses like Bourbon's Hope and Ensign Parker that he ran fourth behind are horses that are pretty solid, consistent types for this type of level, and they're both in decent form right now, actually. Ensign Parker came right back from there to win with a 78 Beyer speed figure, and before that, he got 2 wet tracks in a row, 4 back running into Quick Flash, who's a pretty consistent type. I think that he's just been facing better company than the form might suggest as far as the level that he's been at, and that this is one of the fields that perhaps, at least based on what we see from these horses on paper, he might be able to get a better hold of in general.
All right, I went back and forth with the 8 and the 9 in here. Persistent Danger coming in from Finger Lakes had a really wide trip last time out. Had a legitimate stumble out of the gate as well, got bumped. And the horse who won that race actually broke their maiden in an open maiden special weight at Laurel. So I thought that was a pretty good race. Wound up ultimately they're going to Big Save. Big Save, Trevor McCarthy's going to be back aboard. I feel like for him it's going to be lessons learned, and he's going to be very cognizant of that trip last time out. He's probably one of the riders that's most attuned into saving ground, trips, how tracks are playing, and he was so wide by no fault of his own last time out. It was 4 wide battle on the front end, and he was the worst of it on the far outside early on in that race. 6 wide at one point, 4 wide around the turn. He just got no help at any point in that race. And I know he dropped down a little bit Beyer's speed figure-wise in there. It's actually thoroughgraph-wise the best figure he's ever run.
Oh, yeah?
As a horse. And in terms of that race with this field, it's one of the best numbers of anybody in the field. I just feel like 2-3-year-old trending in the right direction as well since he's come back off the layoff. For me, I thought he was the way to go. And I like that McCarthy's back aboard.
I liked him last time. I thought that he was running into a performance from Tommy Gunn that we had not seen in the past. And I actually really liked his race 2 back when he was able to finish 3rd behind Joking Way and Tommy Gunn. So I can understand completely trying to forgive the wide trip that he had. And you have a number that tells you that he ran a better race last time than the one beforehand. I think that that is certainly something to argue for. What about Mach 1 dropping in class a little bit here? And when you have a lot of horses that are kind of at this level, to take somebody who is at least dropping in class. I know we haven't seen him since May, but I mean, when you look at who he faced, Be the Boss, Colloquy, I mean, just horses that would be insanely short prices.
Yeah, I mean, that late last year, early this year form, he wins this race.
Right? I mean, it's a big question, as we have about many of the horses in this field, but I thought he was worth a look. I mean, just you can at least tell he's been facing much better horses.
Yeah. Charger, too, major player in that spot. I mean, you have the other half of the entry, but they both figure in here for Rudy.
Yeah, they do. I have no big preference over either of them. I mean, it just hurts me to take short-priced entries in fields like this where ultimately you don't really love anybody, so I don't want to default to the horses that are going to be the shortest prices, but I don't have any big problems with either of them.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back, talk late pick 4. We're going to drink these Saratoga waters.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
Pick things back up on Talking Horses here with the late pick 4, race 6. New York bred, 30 maiden claiming sprint at 6.5 furlongs in here. Would you agree, Retail Man, way the horse to beat in this race?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, the horse that I think that it really gives him a lot of credit that he ended up going off as the favorite versus the maiden special weight field at the state bred level last time, and that there was a confident move with this horse going and stepping up in class. And we'll take a look at his debut where he finished 2nd over Mad Banker, who was 3rd in there, both of them behind Two's a Crowd. And I mean, for them to go from that race, step him up to the maiden special weight company, and for him to take that much money in there, I mean, he just makes a ton of sense, and I think that he's going to be a pretty heavy lean for many people in this race, just given the early speed that he showed as well.
Yeah, when it was, big sign of confidence too. They jumped him up in class next time out, and he had a tough go of it in that better group. He was 3 wide in a 3-way battle for the lead in that race, so he had a right to back up.
Absolutely, and just facing tougher company. Now he's back at a level where it seems like he fits. He's already shown that he can be competitive at the maiden claiming ranks. So
as a result, neither of us picked him.
Right, exactly.
So what'd you like with How You Doing?
This is a horse that's actually a full-to bred man, a horse that we're very familiar with on this circuit. So maybe some questions about the cutback in distance ultimately suiting him best, as that horse was more of a routing type. But I felt as though he's just kind of caught some tracks that he may not have appreciated. Sloppy goings, both of his last 2 starts at Finger Lakes, going a route of ground, and just seems to be that type that is sort of racing himself into fitness. And while his best number was over a sprinting distance, maybe they're just saying, hey, this was the best number that he had so far on debut. Cut him back, see if he fits at this level as he's been facing the maiden special weight company there, which might translate to a maiden 30 here.
Yeah, the lone sprint was the best race he's run. Never had a fast track too, which I like that point and see what he could do. I have him in the mix as well. I have him 3rd in here. I wound up going to the Delaware Boys. If you get an opportunity to watch this race, you should take a look at it. This horse broke dead last in the debut. Actually took money too. It was at this level, but he went off at 5-1 for David Duggan and made this really big move. Kendrick Carmouche kind of had to rush him up to get into contention. And he did show a lot of talent in there. And in the backstretch, he actually got into the mix against this group. And then he just sort of flattened out. He had to do way too much work in that race. Ran out of gas. I like this horse quite a bit. Go back, look at that if you can. It's going to be Trevor McCarthy on board today. The first foal from this dam. The dam actually won her 2nd start. First foal won the 2nd start, who's run. Second dam won the 2nd start. I'm seeing a trend. This is the 2nd start for the Delaware Boys as well. But I really like the talent. If this horse can break better today, has a big chance.
Do you keep a virtual stable at all? Anywhere?
I do not, no.
You don't? Okay, I do. This horse is in mine. So I got an alert this morning that he was running, and I was trying to remember exactly why I liked him a little bit. But that trip that you mentioned, I mean, it was significant, and for him to sort of overcome that throughout the race. And then this is a barn that's going really well right now, the Dave Duggan barn. He doesn't have a ton of horses in comparison to some of the trainers we see with the higher percentages around here, but this is a barn to keep your eye on right now because they've been producing live horses, especially in these maiden ranks as well over the past couple of weeks. So he's interesting. I definitely see what you see with him.
All right, meanwhile, let's move on to race 7. 1 turn mile, 50,000 starter allowance coming up in this next race. And the 4, I Feel the Need. Linda Rice off the claim is where you wind up. Big figure last time out from well off the pace. That was at Keeneland where Linda claims another one out of Kentucky.
She does, and this one was a horse that was really having a terrible trip in there. It was for a $40,000 non-winners of 2, but I mean, this is a horse that breaks near the back of the pack. She ends up moving over towards the rail to try to save some ground, but you already see the margin of separation between the bulk of this field and her as well. And you can see as we pick it up now, she's starting to regain some sort of position, making that nice run towards the inside. I know that she was able to save every inch of ground in this race, but generally you don't win these types of races at Keeneland from that far back. It is a track where you kind of want to be more forwardly placed, and this was just an effort that I was impressed with. The number came back relatively huge given what we had seen from her recently, but this is a horse that they thought so much of originally when she started her career that they tried her in the fantasy. So had some of that back class at a time, and we just know how good Linda Rice is off the claim. Seems like this one is perhaps well spotted in a field where I thought that maybe with a better break she could get herself into better position, and that might be it.
We shall see as Linda Rice continues to attack that New York Racing Association single season record for victory. She is right on the cusp of it. It's going to come down to the wire. It's going to be fun. I went to Duck Fat in here, produced one of the most painful defeats of my career in the Pick 5 when she was able to win at 48-1 back around this time last year.
Crazy.
This time last year is when she got really good. She ran the 2 back-to-back best figures she has ever run. She seems to be sort of rounding into that form again. And if you go 2 starts back, I just felt like she's facing better company. That was a 50,000 starter allowance. Western Lane was a 3-5 favorite, who she just missed by a nose two. And
That was a big effort.
It was a really big effort. Western Lane was that 3-5 favorite there. She ran at the best figure she's ever run that day, and I feel like she wants to go longer. She's even better. She came back last start was the setup for stretching back out here. She sprinted last time out against another field that I think is way better than what she's dealing with in this spot. So I feel she's rounding in again to the kind of form that we saw from her last year. And I know I missed the boat at 48-1, so I'm going to jump on at 8-1 today.
I like her quite a bit. I mean, she's been facing good horses. So Lieb won that last race. She's in great form right now.
Yeah.
A horse that was kind of on that tear and stepping up in class as well, and still producing for different barns too. So I see your point with her completely. I picked her second. I like her quite a bit, and I'm going to use her in that cross-country pick 5 we have with Oaklawn.
Yeah, what'd you think of leadership ability? Neither of us have the 9 in here. Just claimed off a Chad Brown and gate to wire win. Easy win for State Bred Maiden 40. I saw that race coming up incredibly slow, though, and would need a massive move forward.
I thought about including that replay, and then I looked at the rest of this field and thought against it. I just don't think that now going off the claim for Chad Brown, he's a hard person to claim away from. Charlie Baker, I have a ton of respect for. He has a good operation, but in for the maiden 40, now running in here, and that was also an off the turf race. I don't know how good this horse actually is, and she would also have to improve quite a bit. So I went in another direction.
Yeah, it was a pretty slow race. Next two second and third place finishers both came back to win. The second place finisher on grass. Third place finisher, though, did win a State Bred Maiden 40 on dirt. It wouldn't shock me, though, this horse comes back to win. I just would need a big improvement in here figures-wise.
Yeah, not going to be on my tickets. Wouldn't be completely shocking, but I would need to get better.
All right, race 8, 6.5 furlongs, and New York Breds, allowance optional claiming field here. This is where we have this huge scratch. Morning line favorite, Stone Creator. It was going to be a significant layoff here in race since April for Linda Rice, but I thought was the horse to beat in this race. That one comes out. I went to Peak of Chic, but I'll let you start with the rail horse.
Kali Magic is a horse that honestly she was a little bit disappointing last time at a very short price, but I wanted to take a look at her race a couple starts ago, and this is when she was defeated by Rebos Valentine finishing ahead of her, both of them defeated by Security Code at Saratoga. But if we take a look at the start here for Kali Magic specifically, I wanted to show the whole race because she's breaking well, but then she's steadying towards the back of the pack in here and kind of out of position early in this race. And this was just a day where Security Code was also sort of in that same position, but got to save more ground than her. And she does have another point where she has to steady yet again, as you see her highlighted there. So things are really not going her way, as now she's in last while Security Code makes that nice move right up the rail to get herself into contention. Kali Magic having to go wide within that race. And as far as her race last time, I mean, that was a day where she was wide against a racetrack where you really needed to save ground and be more towards the inside. And that's exactly the kind of trip that Temperamental was able to get in that off the turf race. So I don't want to be too harsh on her and hold that against her. And while she isn't exactly going in the right direction, she's a horse that I can make enough of an excuse for in both of her last 2 races. And if you go 3 back, I mean, that was a win with a 74 Beyer speed figure at this distance. And she's just run well for different barns. I have a lot of respect for her. You can see her trying to still make up ground in here with that inside move over Rebos Valentine, and she just misses that second place finish. So I want to give her another chance at what's going to be a better price.
All right, I wound up going to Peak of Chic in here, who comes in from Parks. Trainer Michael Moore, this is an incredible story, claimed this mare for $5,000. Back in August of 22, I believe it's won $170,000 for the barn since that $5,000 claim. It's incredible. Claim. She's 6 for 9 this year, and she, the exclusion of that last race, 2 back on a sloppy sealed racetrack. She didn't show up that day. Each of her last 5-6 races are better than, with the exception of Stone Creator, who's not in the race anymore, significantly faster than anybody in this race. And she's a bit of a concern. Ran November 15th, and that was one of the fastest races she's ever run. Is she going to react to that? Maybe move backwards a little bit? I happen to think she's just in incredible form right now. And with Stone Creator out, I have even more faith that she doesn't have to have the lead, but I think she can get the lead if she wants it in this spot. She is incredibly honest. She shows up every single time, and I think that form is going to translate here against this group. That last start ran a figure that's 2 to 3 lengths faster or more than anybody in this field.
Yeah, if she can
even if
repeat
she does move backward a little, she can still win.
Fair enough. I see what you see with her. I think that this is a field that's a lot more open now with the presence of Stone Creator out. Temperamental is a horse that we touched on having that perfect trip last time, but this is a race where she actually finished behind Stone Creator. What do you do with her? She seems like more of a consistent type. I know that she got the perfect trip 2 back, but I mean, she's a consistent board hitter. Do you have any interest in her at all?
Not for the win. She wouldn't shock me in this spot, but I think a couple probably need to not show up for her to win. But I think she will be making a late run and absolutely get a piece of it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that I don't really want her for the win candidacy, just because I think that there are things I like about Killy Magic. Repos Valentine can certainly win. I don't think even Missing Fortune is completely impossible, and you like Peak of Chic, so there's just plenty of other ways
No,
to
I mean,
go.
everyone's truly, it's even with Stone Creator too. It wasn't a lock this horse was going to win. I mean,
She had the layoff to contend with,
yeah.
so
And Linda Rice even said was using this horse sort of as a stepping stone to go longer. But yeah, every single horse in this race you can make a case for. I thought.
agree. Yeah, interesting feature race.
All right, we close things out with the New York bred 30 maiden claiming sprint. 6 furlongs, big scratch in this one to close things out as well. Moda Morning Grouch, the 5, comes out of the mix, who had been second against State Bred Maiden 40, this level last time out, so major player gone with that. And we got to change these selections. It's 8-3-4-2 for me.
And 3-4-8-2 for me.
Okay, so we'll get those corrected. Do you want to start?
Sure. I mean, I took the 2 for Linda Rice. One of them is a horse that's just dropping in for a tag for the first time and was coming off a layoff last time and really did not do much running, but against tougher, and now gets that class relief. Now second off the layoff, a horse that at one time, I mean, she was running against Merlazzo, who was a really good horse for Brad Cox and just has been facing much tougher company throughout her career. And then George's Vice is a horse that switches back to the dirt, actually had debuted on turf and stayed with that surface. And I don't know. I mean, there's enough pedigree to suggest that she can at least handle it, getting a little bit more class relief as well. A horse that is first off the claim from Christophe Clement for Linda Rice. And I, like you, I thought that Moda Morning Grouch was a serious horse to be considering. And with her out, I kind of chalked it up with these 2.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was 3-8. As the main players in here, there's a few others certainly that are players, George's Vice among them. I looked at that Run Shadow race from Linda Rice, and I know that one's dropping. I just didn't think she did a ton of running in that race.
She did not.
Teresa, for me, I thought showed a little bit more, at least, being wide throughout in that tougher group with the drop down here, which she did run at this level first time out.
She ran well.
I didn't see all that trouble that they're showing in the running line, but I still like the race that she ran.
I think that she was kind of just reactive to kickback more so than having this tumultuous trip that it looks like at first glance within that race. But I thought that she took a lot of money for a barn that's not necessarily known for their first-time starters as well. And I think that that's meaningful as she now drops in class to a level where you know that she can at least be somewhat effective against, as she was in the past.
Good luck in today's card.
Thank you.
Kicks
as well.
off in, about 40 minutes here? And again, don't forget, we'll have the promo coming in here on the show, but opening day coverage from Oaklawn out in Hot Springs as well. Cross Country Pick 5 each and every day of this Oaklawn meeting, teaming up here with Aqueduct, and that's the sequence today. Races 7 and 8 in New York, 7, 8, and 9 out in Oaklawn, including that Advent. That begins at 3:12 Eastern time for that wager, and you can play it by getting signed up with Now or Bets, and that's the offer, the $200 deposit match sign-up bonus with the promo code MATCH200. Use your QR code, or go to the app, go to NowOrBets.com. Middle pick 4 in race 3 today. Good luck. Get after it. $15 bonus for playing $75 each at Aqueduct and opening day at Oaklawn today. And you'll get that $15 whether you win or lose. You got to opt in to take advantage of NowOrBets.com. And our coverage of the program starts at 1:30 today on FS2. 1:30 to 6. We got Paulie Lafitte live on site in Hot Springs as well. Stakes race on the opening day of the card. And good weather, fingers crossed,
Yes,
so far.
for now. You like anybody in the Advent?
I do. I'll talk about it later in the program, but
Oh,
I
a
do.
tease,
I
okay.
like a long shot in that race.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I love playing Oaklawn because it's just horses coming in from all
All
over,
over.
descending from all these. You
Big
really
fields. Yeah.
have to pay attention on what circuits horses coming in from are doing well at. But it's a fascinating track. We love it, and we're going to have meet long coverage coming up. And that series they have for all those divisions, tremendous, including the Triple Crown Series.
Absolutely. I mean, plenty of races on the road to the Kentucky Derby and the Kentucky Oaks, plenty of stakes races for the older horses, and then plenty of chaos with those Archie-bred maidens and all sorts of types. So really looking forward to their coverage.
All right, Chris Griffin going to take it away with what's to come on the card. We'll see you at 1:30 Eastern Time.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.